Alright, 30 NBA teams, 30 GOATs. In today's video, I'm going to be giving my take on who the greatest player in the history of every NBA franchise is. And look, some of these are pretty obvious, not going to lie, and you can probably think of those off the top of your head, but a lot of these are really tough, and I think are going to make for some fun debates. And if you watch to the end of the video, I'm going to be ranking every NBA team based on how good their GOAT is. So with that being said, let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks. Alright, so the Atlanta Hawks GOAT is Bob Pettit, and yeah, this one's just not close. Although, shout out to Dominique Wilkins, who I do think people sleep on, just because he kind of got overshadowed by Larry Bird in the 80s, and then the Bad Boys, and then Jordan in the 90s, all in the East. But Bob Pettit led the Hawks to their only championship in 1958, taking down Bill Russell's Celtics. Dominique Wilkins never even made a conference finals. Next. This one's going to be hot, but the Boston Celtics GOAT to me is Larry Bird. And look, obviously Bill Russell has an argument. 11 rings speaks for itself. I have both guys in my top 5 all time, but I just kind of feel like Bird is more culturally relevant to Boston Celtics history and the city of Boston. And that 1986 team, every Celtics fan will tell you is the best team in Celtics history. Bird stretched too in the 80s when he was a top 3 MVP finisher every single year for 8 years in a better era. To me, Bird was just the better player. And if you want to make the rings argument, I'm cool with it. If you want more of my Larry Bird takes, I made an entire video on the case for Larry. Go check it out. The Nets GOAT comes down to 2 guys. And really, this is just a longevity argument. And I guess whether or not you want to count the ABA argument. Because on one hand, you have Dr. J, who's my pick. Because 3 years, 3 MVPs, and 2 titles. It's kind of hard to beat that. On the other hand, though, you have Jason Kidd, who played 7 years with the Nets, made 2 finals, and finished MVP runner-up once. Again, to me, Dr. J did enough despite only playing 3 years to be the greatest player in franchise history, but this longevity thing is going to come up again multiple times through this video. Larry Johnson, Grandmama, is the GOAT of the Hornets to me. Yeah, this one's kind of tough because there's no great answer. Not in a good way. You have Alonzo Mourning, who was probably the highest peak player in the history of the organization, but only played in Charlotte 3 years. You have Kemba Walker, who had the longevity and had the fanfare, and was a lot of fun to watch and very loyal to the team, but he won 3 playoff games his entire career in Charlotte. And then you have Larry Johnson, who kind of has everything. A second-team All-NBA, 50 win seasons with the team, and played half-decade there. So that's my pick. Chicago Bulls, it's Michael Jordan. Next. Cleveland Cavaliers, it's LeBron James. Next. Oh my God. The Mavs is so frustrating, dude. You, Nico Harrison. This should have been Luka. Luka is the best player to have ever put on a Mavs uniform. But obviously, the GOAT of the team is Dirk Nowitzki. Everyone talks about 2011, and rightfully so. And I think what people really sleep on with Dirk and his impact on the city of Dallas is the Mavs were, by far the worst team in the 90s by record. Dirk came to town and just completely turned around the direction of this franchise and made them one of the winningest teams the very next decade. The Denver Nuggets is obviously Nikola Jokic, and yeah, when he won the title in 23, he definitely locked this up for sure, but to me, the moment he won his first MVP, he passed Melo. Jokic is just so much better than Melo ever was. Also, shout out to my guy Fat Lever, who was the triple-double point guard in between the Big O and Russell Westbrook. And obviously, shout out to Alex English, too, one of the best scorers of all time. Someone in the comments is going to make a Wilt argument for the Warriors, and it's going to piss me off because they're literally just going to say, well, Wilt averaged 50. He was better than Steph ever was. I don't really have a counter argument to that other than, well, then why didn't Wilt win anything in the playoffs with the Warriors? Versus Steph won 4 titles and to me was just the better player. I would rather have Steph on my team than Wilt. I don't feel the need to argue this one much longer. Let's keep going. The Houston Rockets is Hakeem Olajuwon, and I'm a James Harden guy. I always have been. And look, maybe if Harden had broken through in 2018 and won a ring, this would be a different argument. And you could even argue if Michael Jordan never retired in the mid-90s and therefore Hakeem never won any rings, this would also be a different argument. But this isn't a hypothetical game. You just can't really argue with 2 titles versus 0 and how much of a dominant force Hakeem was on both ends. This is Hakeem. Don't overthink it. The Pacers GOAT is very similar to the Nets because On one hand, like, everyone's going to argue for Reggie Miller, including myself. He's my pick, and it's kind of obvious why. I mean, 18 seasons in Indy, took him to the finals. He's the franchise all-time leader in games, points, assists, steals, three-pointers. He's just like an iconic figure in Indiana basketball for a million reasons. But hear me out. Let me tell you about Mel Daniels of the ABA, because he's kind of the Dr. J of this argument. 6 years in Indy in the ABA, 2-time MVP, 3-time champ, 6-time All-Star. It's kind of hard to not argue for Mel Daniels, but again, I just think if we're talking GOAT and we're thinking icon and kind of who you think about when you think of Pacers basketball, it is Reggie Miller, and therefore he's my pick. It's 18 seasons, come on. Speaking of things I've been sleeping on, I would like to talk to you guys about the sponsor of today's video, Bear Mattress. Thank you to Bear Mattress for sponsoring this video. Make sure you guys go to bearmattress.com/AndrewFenichel and use my code AndrewFenichel for 40% off your next mattress. Because guys, this bad boy right here is the best mattress in the game. And when Bear first hit me up, they had me take this sleep quiz, which you can take on the website right now. And essentially it's used to determine what the right mattress is for you based on a bunch of different variables like sleep position and firmness and other preferences like that. And it gave me the Elite Hybrid, which I've now been using for about a month. And look, this is no joke. I mean, I'm a huge sleep guy. I need my beauty sleep, but also sleep is obviously just so important for everybody. I mean, whether you're an athlete or you're an entrepreneur, you're in school, like your performance at whatever you do is largely dictated by how well you sleep. And I'm telling you, in the 1 month I've been using this mattress, not only have I been falling asleep on time, sleeping a full 8 hours, but like, my dreams, I don't know what it is, my dreams on this thing have been crazy. I mean, I've even been dreaming that the Wizards one day will win the title, which, yeah, you're not getting that on any other mattress. Like, it's almost a problem how comfortable this mattress is. I spend a lot of time now working in bed, including probably editing this video you're watching right now.
Yep, can confirm.
But like, you can't blame me. I mean, Bear mattresses use sleep recovery technology, so if you tend to sleep hot, which I do, Bear uses a special fabric to keep you cool through the night, and they're 100% fiberglass free, while other mattresses have fiberglass that can be harmful to your health. That's actually really important because all of Bear's mattresses are made without the use of harmful chemicals, so you can sleep safely and soundly knowing there will be no off-gassing. Look, man, I love my Bear mattress, and I really think you guys would too. So if you're looking to upgrade your sleep, make sure you go to bearmattress.com/AndrewFenichel and use my code AndrewFenichel for 40% off your mattress. And it's actually higher than what's being offered on the site right now, so make sure you check them out while you still can. Now let's get back to the video. The Clippers GOAT is Chris Paul. I think there's an argument Blake was better on those teams when he was healthy. But in LA, I mean, Blake never made an All-NBA first team when Chris Paul made 3. All right, here we go. The Lakers GOAT is Magic Johnson, and I'm very passionate about this. So we're going to get a lot of comments for Kobe. We're going to get a lot of comments for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But not only do I just think Magic was the best player of the 3, Magic was the best player on 4 Lakers title teams. Kareem was only the best player on one of those teams in 1980, and keep in mind, guess who won Finals MVP that year? Magic Johnson, when he subbed in at center for the injured Kareem. But Kobe was also only the Lakers GOAT for 2 of the titles. It was Shaq in the early 2000s. So if we're talking best player on the best team, I mean, it's Magic Johnson on those Showtime Lakers teams. He's also just arguably the biggest star in NBA history. Don't get me wrong, Kobe's up there too, but Magic in the 80s, bro, it was just different. Not to mention, Magic won 3 MVPs as a Laker. Kobe only won 1. Again, if you want more of my Kareem and Magic takes, I have full-length videos on both guys. I'll pop up the link somewhere here. For now, we're keeping it going. The Grizzlies GOAT is Marc Gasol. I mean, shout out to Zebo, shout out to Pau Gasol, you know, before Mark got there, and I guess Ja Morant probably rounds out the top 4. For as respected of a franchise the Grizzlies are, they really haven't had much star power. I mean, they were supposed to get LeBron in 03, but that's not here nor there. Yeah, Marc Gasol, Defensive Player of the Year, part of the grit and grind teams. I think it's Mark. And then the Miami Heat's GOAT is Dwayne Wade. I don't want to see any arguments for LeBron or especially Jimmy Butler. This is Dwayne Wade City. It's a culture thing and a basketball thing. Here's another fun one. The Milwaukee Bucks GOAT is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, not Giannis. I should say, yeah. I mean, Giannis could definitely win this with the longevity argument, but, I mean, so far, I'm taking Kareem. They both won one title. Kareem made an extra finals, and I just think Kareem was the better player during those early years in Milwaukee. The Timberwolves GOAT is Kevin Garnett. Again, another non-close one. I mean, who else do you want to argue? Anthony Edwards, Kevin Love, Cat, and then the New Orleans GOAT is Chris Paul. And I thought really hard about him versus Anthony Davis. And let me read off some stats. I mean, AD played one extra season in New Orleans compared to CP3. Both of them had 2 top 5 MVP finishes, and neither guy made a conference final. So, I don't know, man. Again, there's a lot of subjectivity with these, but I just think Chris Paul was better. You know, that 08 season, you can argue he should have been MVP over Kobe Bryant. He had back-to-back seasons. He led the league in assists and steals. I mean, he won 56 games in 08 with David West as the second best player. The New York Knicks GOAT is Willis Reed. I think a lot of people would say Patrick Ewing, but I don't really see the argument. I mean, Ewing never won a title or an MVP. Meanwhile, Reed in those early 70s, 2-time finals MVP, 1-time regular season. And that era was tough, too. Not that the 90s weren't. Obviously, it was, too, when Ewing played. But Willis Reed was going up against everyone from Kareem to Bill Russell to, you know, Dave Cowens and Bill Walton. The Thunder GOAT is Kevin Durant. And yeah, if Shea ends up winning this year's title, totally get the argument for Shea. But again, I just think Durant was better. And they've both played similar number of seasons and yada, yada, yada. Shea's probably going to go down as this franchise's all-time greatest player, but for now, I'm still rocking with KD. And also, quick shout out to Gary Payton, who I also think has an argument here. The Orlando Magic's GOAT is between the two guys they called Superman, Shaq and Dwight Howard. And actually, originally I had the team's GOAT as Shaq. I decided to switch to Dwight Howard, and here's why. Dwight played 2 times as many seasons in Orlando, and I think longevity has to matter to some degree. Because even though I think Shaq was probably the better player at his peak, I mean, Dwight's average MVP finish in Orlando was 4.4. Shaq's was 5.5. You know, they both made 1 finals. It's close. And if you're a Shaq guy, I'm not going to argue whatsoever. I'm going with Dwight Howard. Now, the 76ers might be the toughest one of them all because there are 4 or 5 guys who have legitimate arguments. To me, it's again Dr. J. Julius Erving, his second appearance on this list. But you could go Moses Malone, you could go Charles Barkley, you could go Allen Iverson, you could go Wilt, you could even go Joel Embiid, honestly, if you just wanted to make the peak for peak argument. But Dr. J played 11 years in Philly, more than all those guys other than Allen Iverson who played 12. AI never won a title versus Dr. J won in 83. I mean, Wilt won the 3 MVPs, but again, only won 1 title and only played 4 seasons there. And you could argue Moses because he was the finals MVP on that 83 team with Dr. J, but he only played there 5 years, you know what I mean? And didn't have the entire resume as a 76er like Dr. J and what Dr. J meant to that city. And speaking of Charles Barkley, he's the Phoenix Suns GOAT. And I think you could easily make an argument for Steve Nash. I also think you could just as easily make an argument that it's not close in favor of Chuck because Chuck made the finals in 93 and he played really well in that series against Michael Jordan. I mean, he was the MVP of the regular season that year and then all of his numbers went up in the finals. Charles Barkley's one of the coolest players ever. He was really the original Giannis. People love to compare Giannis to Shaq. Really, the comp is Charles Barkley. And so sure, Nash had the extra MVP. I don't really care. I think Chuck was better. The Blazers GOAT is Bill Walton because he won them the title in 1977 and won an MVP before the injuries killed his career. But shout out to Clyde Drexler, who took the Blazers to multiple finals appearances in the 90s. And obviously in today's era, you know, Damian Lillard deserves a shout out. Never ran from the grind, but yeah, to me, this is pretty easily Bill Walton. The Kings GOAT is Oscar Robertson, dating back to the Cincinnati Royals era of this franchise. Don't really need to say too much about the Big O. I mean, he averaged a triple-double. He was one of the best players in the 60s during, you know, the first true era of this sport. If we're talking Sacramento Kings GOAT, then I think it's Chris Webber because of how good he was on those early 2000s teams, but yeah, I don't really care that the Big O didn't have a ton of playoff success until he got to Milwaukee. He's the best and most iconic player in the history of this franchise. San Antonio Spurs GOAT is Tim Duncan. Next. I think people are going to disagree with me on this one, but I think the Raptors GOAT is Vince Carter, and I do not see the argument for Kyle Lowry. I don't care that Lowry played a lot of years in the city and won them the title in 2019. If that's your argument, then just say it's Kawhi. Kawhi's the best player to ever play for this team, and he was by far the best player on that title team. But comparing Kyle Lowry, who was never even like a borderline all-star, to Vince Carter, who during those early years in Toronto was a legitimate like top 10 MVP guy. I mean, Vince was just so much better than Lowry. And look, I get it's kind of awkward because Vince had a bad breakup with the team before he went to New Jersey. But, I mean, Vince Sanity was just so clearly the biggest star this city and franchise has ever had. Kyle Lowry, really? The Utah Jazz GOAT is pretty simple. It's Karl Malone. John Stockton was the Robin to Malone's Batman. I mean, Malone was the MVP. There's no argument for Stockton. And then last and honestly maybe least is yours truly, the Washington Wizards. And as much as I wish I could say it was that guy right there, my GOAT, my king, John Wall, it's Wes Unseld. Won MVP as a rookie in 1970 and helped bring the Bullets to 4 NBA Finals in the 1970s, winning one in 1978. Yeah, this is Wes Unseld, case closed. And then yeah, here's how I would rank all 30 teams as GOATs. Feel free to pause the video. I'd love to have some debates in the comments. And as always, I appreciate you guys watching this video and supporting the channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. And I always say I'm going to do more long form content. We'll see. Peace.